Okay, moving on to task 5. Manager needs you to edit sales data, so you download that, do some formulas, sorting, highlighting, do a chart, make it look nice. Okay, so pick in when you want to download the thing. I like to do save as, so I can specify where to put it. Desktop, in-app practice, that's what I'm doing. I can't remember what it's about this, but I'm just going to call it data for now. Open that. Okay, so it's pretty dull, sparse spreadsheet. Formatting's all over the place. Some of the columns aren't wide enough. Now, before even reading the questions, I would take measures to improve the look of the spreadsheet and improve the formatting of it. So, we're in protected view because I didn't click on that yellow bar. So, just going to enable editing by going to File and Enable Editing, so I can change things. Okay, so first thing I would do is use these. See, if I put the pointer between A and B, it changes to the little arrow thing. That's how you make them wider. Obviously, you don't want to cut off any of the writing in the column, so you make that wide enough. And you make that wide enough on all the columns. If you want to automatically make it wide enough, click, for example, on D to highlight the whole column, and then you can double click, and that makes it just as wide as the bit of text that's widest, basically. If you want to be really slick, you can click here, which highlights the whole spreadsheet, and then go to that special place between the two columns and double click, and what that does is resizes them all to the perfect width. People who use Excel all the time don't know that trick, and they should, because it saves a bit of bother. Right, so you've got a blank row here. I hate blank rows, they're annoying. So if you want to get rid of a row, you can either do this and highlight all the cells, but the quick way of highlighting a whole row is to click on the number like that. If you want to get rid of the content and the space, you right click, there's a delete, and it gets rid of the whole row. Blank row is not a good idea, really. Okay, so that's an improvement. You can see all the text. This looks like some kind of title, so I might make it big, or change the font, or do bold or underline or something. Personally, I don't bother with fiddling around with fonts like this. I use this cell styles thing, which just takes all the effort and creativity out, which suits me just fine. Thanks very much. Okay, always make column headings stand out, even if it's just making them bold. Again, I like to use built-in tools that are designed to make my life easier, because I'm probably a bit lazy, let's face it. So a really good one to learn is if you highlight the table, don't highlight extra stuff around it, just specifically what's going to be your table. And there's this thing called format as table, which just applies a little kind of design template to the table. I'm really boring, so I tend to go for the blue, because I'm a walking stereotype. There we go. So, to my money, that looks a lot better. Final thing I would say, always look at numbers, see whether they're appropriate, see whether they're consistent. Those are two really important words, appropriate and consistent. City and Guilds like things to be appropriate and consistent. As you can see, they're inconsistent, i.e. inconsistent meaning not consistent, they're all over the shop. Some have one decimal place, some have two, so that all varies. Now you can fiddle around with how numbers are displayed by looking at this number section, which is in the Home tab, where most of the useful stuff is. Oops, I've gone to the wrong place. But anyway, this number section, you can do loads of stuff. Okay, so if you wanted, you could use these buttons to increase or decrease the number of decimal places. So I've pressed decrease until there's none. and press increase, and they've got 2 decimal places. But except for September, if you see that, it means it's not wide enough. So just do that resize thing by double clicking. Do I like that now? Yeah, it's a bit better, but well, it's consistent. But it could be a bit more appropriate because you haven't got the pound symbols, and I'm assuming this is pounds. And feel free to make fair assumptions like that with City and Guilds. So I could either choose currency or accounting from this drop down menu. I like to just press on this button, and that does the money for me. To my mind, that's way better than it was before. Can't quite see everything on this little screen, so I'm just going to click minus once. Now I can see everything. Obviously, it depends how good your eyesight is. You might want to click plus and just use these scrolly things to move around. Right, so I would always do that before even starting really reading what the questions are, because it's just about standards. Just always try and have a high standard with the work you produce. So I'm going to switch back to Internet Explorer now, which is where I'm doing my practice test. Okay, so it's downloaded, and the stuff I've just done is actually this at the bottom really, making sure the work is clear, easy to read, formatted correctly. But personally, I do it autopilot every time, and I think you should too. Okay, formula to show total sales value of each product range for the year. So let's pop back to the spreadsheet. So because we're recording it for each product, obviously you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7 different sales values. So you want one for every row. If you're doing a calculation where you want one from every row, then you do it in a new column on the end. Okay, so they wanted it total across the year. So let's talk about formulas and functions. So to do calculations basically, or formula, you press equals first. And that means instead of it just showing what you type, it tries to work something out from what you type. So here I could do equals B4, add C4, add D4, add E4, blah, 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 for each of those. And then if I pressed enter, I would get the answer of the total of all of those cells. But that's not a very slick way of doing it. It takes ages. And obviously if you had more columns, then it would take even longer. So what they've done is they've done a built-in thing for doing totals, and it's called sum. And sum is what we call a function, which is a built-in tool for doing something. And specifically, the function sum should be called total really, because it adds a total up. Now, some people will click on this auto sum button to do it. Personally, when I use functions, I click on this insert functions button, and it brings up this box, and there's sum, and it says adds up all the numbers, which is what we want. So click on OK, and what it's going to do is it's going to guess which cells to add up. And what this means is it's saying I'm going to add up from B4 to M4. So this colon symbol, which is next to the L on your keyboard, press shift and that button, that means 2, the word 2, T-O. So it's saying from B4 to M4. If this didn't say the right thing here, I could delete it, and I could use the mouse to select it, which is what I tend to do if it's not guessing it right. So sum B4 to M4. Or you can just type it. You know, if you prefer to just type things, then just type them. So that's what I want to add. Comes to 42,000-ish. Looking across those numbers, that doesn't seem ridiculous. So I'll click OK. And there's my total sales value. Now, often when you've done format as table, this will fill in the rest of the column, but this is set up not to do that for some reason. If you have just typed a nice formula and it works, and you want to continue that formula for the rest of the cells, use this little black box in the corner of your cell, and you'll see the pointer change to that black cross. So if I'm holding down the left mouse button now, and I'm copying that down to the rest of the column. One quick glance shows that the answers look reasonable. I'm going to click in a random one and look up here to see what it's added. B7 to M7. I look round, that looks great. I'm not going to click somewhere now because it will think I want to do something with the cell I click on. I'm going to click, either hit enter to say yes, I'm happy with that formula, or hit escape to get out of it. So those formulas, perfect. Table looks good. Let's see what's next. Sort the data in ascending order by total sales value. That's easy because we did format as table. It gives us these little drop down options with sorting. Sorting is put it in an order. Also it gives us filters, so you could filter it so you could only see ones that are higher than 20,000 or something, which also can be quite useful. I can't remember whether it's the smallest to largest or largest to smallest, sorry. Ascending. Ascending is going up the stairs, so you start low and then you get higher. So I've done that right. This little up arrow means ascending. If you didn't have those drop down options like that, because you weren't able to do format as table for whatever reason, then you can just click in a column and do sort and filter. So I'll show you doing it that way. But we want ascending, so smallest to largest. Okay, so that's that bit done. Make the product with the lowest total sales value stand out. Okay, that's fine. Well, that's the one with the lowest. It didn't tell us to do it automatically. So if I wanted to make it stand out, I could just click on it and like highlight it like that, for example. At level 2, you might use conditional formatting from that, and that highlights certain values, you know. Have a play with conditional formatting, it's great. But at level 1, it's just a case of click and highlight, and that's alright. Okay, popping back. Create a chart to show the total sales value for each product range. Okay, so we want to use this information and this information. Don't try and create some really overcomplicated chart by including all these months as well. With a chart, basically less is more. You want it to be simple and easy to interpret. So I want this lot and I want this lot. Now, as you can see, I can't select them both at the same time. Or can I? I actually can. I'll select the first range of cells. This is selected at A3. They just colour the first one you click on in white to say that's where text would appear if I start typing. It's just a little quirk of Excel that it doesn't look blue like the others. If I want to select this lot as well, which is the difficult part, all you need to do is hold down Control on your keyboard, bottom left, and then choose this other range of cells with the mouse. Let go of the mouse button, then you can let go of Control, and now you've got 2 ranges selected, the exact stuff you need for your chart, nothing more, nothing less. And chart is one of the few things that isn't in this home tab. You need to go to the insert tab for chart. You pick your type of chart. If in doubt, hover the pointer over one that you think it'll be. And if that seems appropriate, here it says column charts are used to compare values across categories, which is what we're doing, so that's the one I would go for. I just tend to pick the simplest one. Okay, that's a pretty good chart. Does the business. City and Guilds will like to see titles all over the place, so this isn't that meaningful. I call it product sales, I think, personally. Now, it's not being shown here, but it's being shown up here. When I hit enter, it will appear there. There's no point in this because you've only got one colour, so I click on that and delete it. Up the side, we've got total sales value. So I want to give it an axis title. So if you want to add bits to your chart. That can be a bit tricky actually, but if you're in chart tools up here, you can either choose the layout with what you need, or what I'll tend to do is I'll click on layout and add what I want. In this case, vertical axis title. I prefer this one, and I'm just nicking this from the column heading. Total sales value. Sorry, I'm not the fastest typer in the world. And going across, obviously, you've got your product ranges. So again, we're going to add something. It's an axis title. It's horizontal, like the horizon, and then we're saying product range. Hit enter. There it appears. To my mind, that's spot on. Obviously, it's in a stupid place, so I'll just plonk it down there for now. Now I'm going to pop back, check I've done everything I need. Yeah, pretty happy. And if I think I'm finished, that's the stage at which I'll always do a spell check. Now I'm pretty good at spelling, but you can't trust City and Guilds, so always do a spell check, because they might have given you a spelling error. In this case they haven't, but they often do, and there'll be a mark for finding it, which is a bit sneaky, but that's what they're like. So, happy days. Looks good to me. I'm happy that I've done everything that's been asked, so I'll do file and save as. And data's a bit vague, so I'm saying snack takings. Click on save or hit enter. Now this thing pops up because it prefers you to save in the new file format, but you were given it in Excel 97 to 2003. It might think that you could change it. You could change it as the newer file format, but the old file format's fine, so I'm clicking on continue. If you wanted to save it as the new one, you just go to file and save as, and just choose your type. So it always puts the one it wants you to do it as on top. So that's the newer version. I'm using 2010, which is a bit newer. But there's nothing wrong with 97 to 2003 as well, so just take your pick. Because City and Guilds gave it to us in this old 2003 mode, I'm going to upload it in 2003 mode as well. So once that's all done, you can close it, and this is where you would click here and upload the file. If you had saved it as a new version, you might need to change the file type thing to say Excel workbook instead of Excel 2003, and then it would appear and you'd be able to double click on it to upload it. Okay, task 5 complete.